So good afternoon everyone. So today's lesson is we are going to discuss about the measures of position and measures of variability of group data. So these are our objectives. First, we're going to calculate the quartile, decile, and percentile of group data. Second one is we are going to create frequency distribution table for measures of variability. The third one is we're going to calculate the variance and standard deviation. Okay, so let's get started. So these are the formula for the measures of position in a group data. So we have for quartile, for decile, and for the percentile. So please take note, the measures of position are quartiles, deciles, and percentiles. Also, we have measures of position for ungrouped data, but today we're going to focus about the measures of position in a group data. So for us to get the quartile, the decile, and the percentile, the first thing that we're going to do is to find the class. Specifically, for example, quartile, so we have to find the quartile class. So this is our first step. So next step, once we know our quartile class, we can now identify this. Okay po? Ganun din sa decile. Identify the decile class first, then you can calculate the decile. Okay po, ganyan sa percentile. Identify first the percentile class, then next is the percentile itself. Bakit ba natin kailangan identify yung class nila? Kasi doon natin kukunin yung mga value na ilalagay natin sa formula. For example, yung lower boundary, yung preceding cumulative frequency of the quartile class. Okay po, for the decile class and the percentile class. So how we are going to get that? For quartile class, we are going to get the product of Kn, where K is the position that we are looking for, and N is the total number of observation, and divided by 4. Kasi nga quartile, kaya 4 kasi we divide the whole number or the whole number into 4 equal parts. Kaya siya divided by 4. Kung sa decile, we divide the whole into 10 equal parts. Kaya siya all over 10. Ito 4, yung decile 10. While on the percentile, the whole divided by 100 equal parts. Kaya siya all over 10. Okay po. So, let's get started. Okay. So, this is our FTT, the frequency distribution table, and we are asked to find the first quartile. Okay po, again, meron tayong whole. Inati natin sa 4. This is the first quartile, the second quartile, the third quartile, and the fourth quartile. Equivalent si first quartile kay 25%, si second quartile kay 50%, 75% kay third quartile, at si fourth quartile ay 100%. Okay po? So this is our formula. First, identify the quartile class. So we're going to get the product of Kn all over 4. Our K is 1. Kasi yun yung hinahanap natin na position ng quartile. Our N is 30 based on the FDT. Okay? So, ito si K, si 1. Ito si N, si 30. 1 times 30 divided by 4, the answer is 7.5. Ito yung value sa observation natin. Ngayon, titingin tayo kay cumulative frequency. Kapag walang 7.5 sa cumulative frequency, we are going to identify the closest but higher in CF. Okay po? Kung ang nakuha natin 7.5, titingin tayo dito kay cumulative frequency. Nasaan dyan kaya yung pinakamalapit pero mas mataas kay 7.5? So the answer is 9. Okay po, hindi pwede si 3. Kasi mas malapit nga siya kay 7.5 pero hindi siya mas mataas kay 7.5. Hindi naman pwede si 18 kasi si 18 mas mataas nga siya kay 7.5 pero may mas malapit pa kay 7.5 which is si 9. Nakukuha po? So we can say that the class 23 to 25 is our quartile class. Okay po? So now, alam na natin yung quartile class natin. We can now get the first quartile. Okay? The lower boundary is 22.5. Our K is 1 kasi yun yung hinahanap natin. Our N is 30. Our less than CF is 9. Kasi ito yung ito yung cumulative frequency. And pag sinabi natin less than CF or less than cumulative frequency, ibig sabihin yung preceding, yung nasa baba, kaya siya 3. Okay po, our frequency is 6. And our I is 3. Stands for interval. Okay, now let's input this on our formula. Okay, so 22.5 plus the quantity 1 times 30 all over 4 minus 3 divided by all over 6 multiplied by the interval 3. Simplify muna natin yung sa taas. So that is 7.5 minus 3. Okay. Mas mabilis to class kapag in-input nyo to sa calcu. So, our first quartile is 24.75. So, our interpretation would be, therefore, 25% of the data has a value of less than or equal to 24.75. Okay po, so ibig sabihin kung ito yung data natin, ito si 24.75, ibig sabihin lahat, yung 25% ng data natin, nandito yung value nila. Okay po, less than kay 24.75 or equal. Also, we can interpret that 75 of our data or of the data has a value of greater than 24.75. Yung kabilang side naman yung interpret natin. Nakakuha po. Okay, now let's proceed to decile. So, we're asked for the D sub 4. Okay po, this is our formula for the decile. Lower boundary plus the product of kn all over 10, kasi decile na tayo, minus less than cf all over the frequency, multiply them by the interval. First, identify the decile class. Let's get the product of kn and divided by 10. For our k is 4 kasi yun yung position na hinahanap natin sa decile. Then, all over 10 kasi decile na tayo. Kasi kanina quartile, kaya all over 4 lang. Okay po, then get the product. 40 times 30 is 120 divided by 10, 12. Ngayon, tingin tayo, ito yung value na kuha natin. Tingin tayo sa cumulative frequency. Meron kayang 12 tayong nakikitang value dyan? Wala. Okay po, so hindi natin na-satisfy. So, tingin tayo ng value closest but higher kay 12. So, ang nakita natin dyan, class, is si 18. Higher siya, at the same time, closest siya kay 12. Si 9, hindi siya pwede kasi closest siya, pero mas mababa siya kay 12. Nakukuha po si 23, hindi rin natin siya pwedeng piliin kasi mataas nga siya kay 12, pero may mas malapit sa kanya, which is si 18. Okay po? Kaya ang ating decile class is 26 to 28. Ito ang ating decile. Ibig sabihin yung naka-highlight na yellow na yan, dyan natin kukunin lahat ng value na i-input natin sa formula. Okay po? Let's do that. Our lower boundary is 25.5. Our k is 4. Kasi yung position na titignan natin sa decile. Our n is 30. Ang cumulative frequency ng decile class is 18. Hinahanap natin is less than cumulative frequency. So, ibig sabihin yung preceding yung nasa baba. Kaya ang ating less than CF is 9. Our frequency is 9. And our interval is 3. Okay, let's input this on our formula. Okay. Mas mabilis to class kung i-input nyo to sa calcu, diretso. So, the answer for D sub 4 is 26.5. So, our interpretation, so we can say that therefore, 40% of the data has a value of less than or equal 26 to 26.5. Also, we can say that 60% of the data has a value of greater than 26.5. Okay po? Ang titignan natin dito, class, is yung position ng data natin. Ilang percent kaya ng data natin yung nasa ganitong position? So, kagaya dito sa decile 4. Yung 40% ng data nyo is nakikita nyo, class, sa less than or equal to 26.5. So, maaari na yung 40% ng data nyo is pwedeng 25, pwedeng 24, pwedeng 23, pwedeng 20. Nakakuha po? So, 40% yun. Yung 60% naman is greater than kay 26.5. Okay? So, next, let's proceed to percentile. So, we are asked to find the P85. 85 percentile. Okay po, see, this is our formula. That is over 100 kasi we're dealing with percentile. So, first, let's identify the percentile class. By doing that, we're just getting the product of K and N. Our K is 85, our N is 30 divided by 100. Bakit 100? Because of we're dealing with percentile. Okay po? So, we have 25.5. By just getting the product of our K and N and divided by 100, the answer is 25.5. Tingin tayo kay cumulative frequency. Nasaan kaya si 25.5? So as you can see on our cumulative frequency column, we don't have 25.5. So we're just looking for the value closest but higher. Always remember, ha? Higher to the value that we get. Okay po? So 25.5, mas malapit siya kay 28. Hindi pwede sa 23 kasi hindi siya higher kay 25.5. Hindi pwede sa 30 kasi higher nga siya pero hindi siya yung pinakamalapit. So, ang pinakamalapit is si 28. So, we can say that the class 32 to 34 is the percentile class. So, ibig sabihin, dyan natin kukunin lahat ng data na i-input natin sa calculator or i-input natin sa formula ng percentile. Now, let's get the percentile of 85. Lower boundary is 31.5. So, as you can see, our K is 85. Our N is 30. This is our cumulative frequency. So, less than CF yung nasa baba kasi preceding. Less than, ibig sabihin yung mas mababa sa kanya. So, 23. Our frequency is 5. Our interval is 3. Okay, let's input. So we have 33. So we can say that 85% of the data has a value of less than or equal to 33. Nakakuha po? So also, we can say that 15% of the data has a value of greater than 33. So, ibig sabihin, mas malaki yung percentage na yung data mo is less than or equal to 33. Kasi 15% na lang yung greater than kay 33. Nakakuha po. So, that's how we are going to calculate the quartile, the decile, and the percentile of the group data. Okay po? Unlike kapag ungroup, mayroon pa tayong tinitingnan na pag kinukuha natin si percentile, si first quartile, tsaka si third quartile, nag-round off at round up tayo. But here, in the group, hindi natin gagawin yun. Okay po? So now, let's proceed to measures of variability in group data. So as you can see, our second objective is we are going to create an FDT regarding the measures of variability. So as you can see, meron tayong additional 3 column. Yung first additional is we're going to subtract the midpoint to the mean. And we're going to square it, and after we square it, we are going to multiply it to our frequency. Okay po. Kasi kailangan natin yung first 3 column to get the measures of variability. Okay, first, let's define what is the measures of variability. It is a summary statistics that represent the amount of dispersion. When we say dispersion class, it is the distance. Okay po. Ito yung paglayo or paglihis nila sa mean. Okay po. Sabi dyan, the amount of dispersion in a data set or how spread out are the values from the mean. Lagi niyong tatandaan, si mean si mean is laging kailangan ni variability. Kasi yun yung basis nila. Okay po, yun yung basis ng ating data. Kasi yun yung center natin, di ba, sa measures of central tendency. We have the mean, the median, and the mode. Okay, basahin natin. While a measures of central tendency describe the typical value, measures of variability define. Si measures of variability define how far away the data points tend to feel from the center. A low dispersion indicates the data points, sabi dyan, a low dispersion indicates the data points tend to be clustered tightly around the center. So, ibig sabihin, kung ito yung center mo, ayan ang center mo, ayan ang mean, pag sinabing low dispersion, ibig sabihin, nandito lang siya. Malapit lang yung data. Malapit lang yung manakuha mong data. Pero, pag sinabi nating high dispersion, sabi dyan, they tend to fall further away from the mean. Ibig sabihin, pag high, mas lumilihis. Nakukuha po? Mas lumilihis siya, class. Okay po. Ibig sabihin, yung data mo nakascatter, malayo siya kay mean. Okay? Sabi dyan, a low dispersion indicates the data tends to be clustered tightly around the center. A high dispersion signifies that they tend to fall further away. Okay po, lumalayo sila sa center. Okay? There are four frequently used measure of the variability of distribution. The first one is the range. Diba? Pag sinabi nating range, it is the distance from the smallest to largest value in the distribution. Basta inaalam lang natin kung saan yung pinakamababa at yung pinakamataas. Range. Kaya nga siya range. Pag interquartile range is the range of the middle score in the distribution. So, ginagamit natin si interquartile range kapag ina-identify natin yung middle ng distribution. Si variance is just the average square difference of the scores from the mean. Si standard deviation, the average amount by which score differ from the mean. Ibig sabihin, kung meron tayong si standard deviation at ina-identify niya na yung ano kaya yung difference ng mga data natin from ano yung average difference ng data natin from the mean. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, sa apat na tuklas, ang pinakamalakas dyan ay si standard deviation. Okay po? Ang pinaka-weakest is si range. Okay po? So, mag-focus din tayo. Alam niyo naman na kung paano computein yung range. Okay? Dito tayo mag-focus tayo sa variance and standard deviation. Okay? So first, let's fill out this. Hindi lang kita class yung bar dyan sa taas ng x, pero that is a mean. So para makuha natin si variance as a standard deviation, kailangan lagi natin alamin muna what is the value of our mean. So our mean is computed as the summation of fx all over n. This formula class, I'm reminding you, this is a sample mean. Okay po, pag small letter yan class, ibig sabihin sample mean. Kapag big letter yan sa denominator, ibig sabihin you are getting the average of the population. Okay po? So yan. Nasa data naman, nasa FDT na lang natin yung class. We're just going to calculate. So our mean is 27.9. Okay? So, para makuha natin yung naka-highlight na column, yung x minus the mean, which is the x is the midpoint, ang gagawin lang natin, kukunin natin muna yung midpoint ni 36. Ito yan, class. So, isusubtract lang natin. Ayan. Ipakita ko muna sa inyo lahat. Okay. So, ito, si 36, si 33, 30, 36, 33, 30, 27, 24, 21, 27, 24, 21. Ayan si midpoint. Ito yung ating mean. So, isusubtract lang natin sila. Ito yung makukuha natin. Okay po? Next. I-square lang natin yung mga nakuha natin para makuha natin tong naka-second highlight na column. I-square lang natin sila. Pakita ko sa inyo, class. Okay? So, ayan. Nakita nyo? Ini-square lang natin yung 8.1, yung 5.1, 2.1, negative 0.9, negative 3.9, negative 6.9. Okay pa? Minta class ha? Nabubura lang yung highlight, yung bar sa taas ng x. Okay po? So, after nyan, yung pinaka-last column natin is you're going to multiply it by the frequency of each classes. Okay? Tingnan nga natin. Yan. So, yung 65.61, 26, up to 47.61, ito yan sila. Ito si x minus the mean quantity squared. Yung 255,963, ayan yung ating frequency. Ito yan. Okay po? So, kinuha natin yung product. Ayan yung nakikita nyo siya naka-highlight. Then, we're going to get the summation of that, of this one. So, we have 524.7. Okay po? Bakit natin kinuha yan? Kasi kailangan natin yan sa pagkuha ng variance and standard deviation. Okay, so kompleto na yung ating FDT. Okay, now we can get the variance. So this is our formula. This symbol is called sigma. Same lang siya dito, class. Ito, class, kasi ay sigma notation. Yan. Ito, class, is sigma lang siya. Pag variance, this formula is for the sample variance. Yung sample variance na class yan, ayan yung may squared. So, ibig sabihin, pag may nakita kayong sigma squared, ibig sabihin sample variance. Variance yung pinag-uusapan. Magiging sample variance lang siya pag n-1 yung nasa baba. Okay po? Kasi iba yung formula natin sa population variance, sa sample variance. Pakitandaan na magkakaiba ng formula. Dahil yung data natin, kinuha lang natin siya sa population, kaya sample variance tayo. Okay po? Kaya ang denominator natin is n-1. So, for the formula of sample variance, so sigma squared is equal to the summation of f of frequency multiplied by x minus the mean quantity squared all over n-1. Okay, so input lang natin sa calcito class. So, we have our variance is 18.09. So, para makuha natin standard deviation, itong standard deviation class, again, it is from the sample formula. So, sample standard deviation, itong ating symbol, si sigma. Ang pagkakaiba ni variance and standard deviation, si variance naka-square, si standard deviation hindi. Para makuha natin yung standard deviation, we're just going to get the square root of the variance. Okay, so our standard deviation is 4.25. So, ibig sabihin, yung average ng data natin, yung average ng difference, the average of the difference of our data from the mean is 4.25. Okay, tingin tayo sa variance, 18.09. Okay, so ibig sabihin, malaki yung value ng variance natin. Ibig sabihin, yung ibang data natin, nakascatter. Ibig sabihin, malayo sila kay... By the way, ano bang mean natin muna? Ang mean natin is 27.9. Okay? So, medyo malayos yung data natin kay mean. Okay? So, hindi sila malapit. Kasi kapag malapit ka kay mean, halimbawa, ito si mean. Kapag malapit, pag sinasabi nating close set sa mean, ang itsura na ng data nating class pa, mas malapit. Kasi nakascatter lang sila dito, class. Okay? Kapag ang variance natin malaki rin yung paglihis ng ating data. Okay po? So, that's the end of our lesson. Please, panote yung mga formula kasi magkaiba yung formula ng sample tsaka ng population. Okay. So, thank you for your listening. So, I hope you learned something from today's lesson. And ang lesson nating class is about the measures of position of group data and the measures of variability in a group data also. So thank you very much for your listening.